session. I'll just give him a brief intro again for his new class. This is Joe Dixon. He is the owner of YP Academy, and he's also a football player for the England Para national team. And he has 10 plus years of coaching experience in England, abroad, a couple countries like Canada itself. He's going to talk a bit about his time in para football.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it to him. Thanks, Joe.
Okay, guys. First thing to start with this is it's important for me to obviously know what the room is. So can I just have a raise of hands who has experience in para or disability or accessible soccer, who's dealt with participants who have those impairments? Okay, brilliant. Right. Who is looking? Who has programs in their clubs that have these accessibility sessions? Does anyone have a program? Yeah. What do you guys do?
We do all abilities.
Yeah.
So open to anybody.
Yeah.
Any age. And since the pandemic kind of like restarted it, so that's when I took over it, and I'm speaking about it tomorrow, so I don't want to ruin it.
Anyone else? Any other interact? Yeah.
Yeah. Pickering Football Club, we do the All Abilities
Yeah.
program. We have to use it.
Yeah. Sweet. Okay, so it's still quite raw from what I see, because when I was, like Cam said, when I was here about 8 years ago, and I was coaching in North Durham, so I was doing a bit of stuff with Uxbridge and Port Perry, and there was literally like nothing. I haven't heard of anything about accessibility soccer. So the PowerPoint really, this is, as Cam said, I played for the England deaf team since I was 18. So so in England there's a big para institution. There's a pathway there. So we're going to go through a little bit of it just to give you guys an idea of what you could create here in Canada, Ontario. But the biggest thing that I had to change about this PowerPoint, because I had to go and get it approved by the FA, they said, can you make sure that it's not related to the FA or England? These are my views and these are my own experiences. Okay, so anything that I share here is not related to the FA. It's not related to the England team. Okay, so don't hold any thoughts. But the PowerPoint is about me as a player. So to give you some participant personal experience, but also my experience as a coach with those. Okay, so I think it's really important that you're getting both sides of the spectrum. All right. So there's a lot of videos in this because I think videos are powerful. I think you can get what you want from them. All right. So if it lets me move. All right, so before the video starts, so like I said, I was born profoundly deaf. So I was born profoundly deaf, which means from birth, I have 100% hearing loss. I have an impairment. I have a cochlear implant on my right ear, which allows me to hear about 70% of what a normal edible hearing person could. Proven track record, as Cam said, 10 years playing for England and Great Britain. I played and coached in over 10 countries, which Toronto is one of them. I've coached in England, I've coached in China, Europe as well. Doing a lot of what I've done this weekend, just going out and sharing the knowledge. Obviously played Canadian soccer. I'm still trying to get used to saying soccer. I mean, it only took me 44 minutes in that CPD session I did on the pitch to say soccer, to say football. So that's not bad. And then I have a coaching company back in England where we work. It's a supplement training company, so we have a lot of pathways there, and that's part of stuff that I do back home. So there's just a little video here just to show you the stuff that I do within the power football stuff back at home. So we'll just watch this.
My name is Joe Dixon, and I play for England deaf men's team. I got involved in deaf football when I was 18. Before then, I was always playing hearing football. I was lucky because I played against another deaf player, and they gave me the opportunity to get involved in deaf football. And then from there, I found out about the England pathway. Since then, I've just been involved in it, playing, training, and really just treat it like a full-time job. Football means everything to me. It's my purpose, it's my life, it's my everyday job now. I have a coaching career as well as playing, so I literally live it 24/7. I breathe it, and I wouldn't change it for the world. My one piece of advice I would give to anyone who is starting at a young age, if they want to get involved in football, is just enjoy it. Always try your best because you never know who's watching. my proudest moment playing so far. Most recently, we went to America with England to play against America, and I was lucky to be given the opportunity to be the captain for England, and that's probably been the proudest moment of my career so far. My personal goals for the future is to make sure that I am the best possible player that I can be for the World Championships next summer, and just to make sure that we leave everything on the pitch there.
Right, so that's not a video I did. That's a video that England did. All right, that's the accessibility that we have now in our country. And as you can probably tell by the video, I'm very proud to represent my country. I'm very proud of the opportunities that we have. And we will talk a little bit about that. And I'll talk a little bit about what England as an organisation does, and probably give you guys some initiatives and stuff to probably go towards Ontario's organisation and what they could do to help, your clubs and your regions, because that's probably some of the stumbling blocks that you probably are facing right now. And I'll give you some ideas on how we can do with that. So obviously for me, it's really important that we have some session goals that I want you guys to achieve from this session. Probably goal number 4 is probably the most important one to me, is if you can leave with one piece of advice that could change someone's life. All right, whether that is, giving them that purpose to go another week or, another drive. It's really important that we, you guys in this room have that one piece of knowledge that could literally change someone's life, whether it's to keep going, whether it's to, take up a sport or, make friends, etc. The other ones are ones that we will touch throughout the session. I think the big one in there obviously is bridging the gap between mainstream and para players. There was a funny situation, I can't remember, I think it was with Cam. I've known Cam for a long time, so I've actually met up with Cam a couple of times before I started this. And we were in the car, and we were in the car park space, and he went, we can't park in there, it's the handicap parking. And I was absolutely baffled by this, and that's a misconception, because I was like, do people get called handicap here? And they're like, well, we call it handicap parking space. And I went, back home, disability, we don't call people with disabilities, we don't call them disabled athletes or anything like that. The word that we use is para, just because of the terminology and the expression that it gives. I mean, for me as a person, as an athlete, the last thing I want to be labelled at is a disabled footballer. You're basically saying that they're not able to do it. So that's probably one piece of advice I'll give you all as coaches. Do not, give them that terminology where they're already downgrading themselves from, the normal knowledge. So there's a bit of session goals. This is really important to me. It's obviously in the smaller picture. That's me, 8 years old, wearing an England shirt. And then there's me last year playing in the World Cup. It was my first major tournament that I played in. I missed the last 2 because of injuries, because of coaching commitments that I had. We did really well in the group stages, but then we got knocked out by, and some people in this room aren't going to be very happy. We lost 1-0 to America. I'm really sorry, guys. We should have won. It was a tough game, but the American culture of never die attitude won them. So that was an incredible experience. But more importantly, this weekend, a lot of people have been talking about role models, making people kids to look up to. With accessibility and with para athletes and para children, they already redeem themselves as different. So when you put up, I'm going to use, for example, for my case, when I was a young kid, people my age, they all wanted to be like the David Beckhams. They all wanted to be, the Michael Owens and the Wayne Rooneys. But for me, I was like, well, I can't be like them, because I already have a disability and they don't. So where's my role model? Where's my athlete that has a similar impairment to what I have? And that was probably the biggest obstacle that I had to face growing up, was like, where's that guy who's got a hearing impairment? Where's that guy who's got the same disability as me that I can look up to? So the big thing that they're doing in England right now is creating more role models of impairments for these young children to look up to, that they can aspire to. So, if you've got programs going on, if you have someone who's 18, 19, 20, or you're someone who's 14, 15, and they have an impairment, the first thing that you should do is make them the face of your club, make them the poster person, make them, have the kids look up to, because even the mainstream kids, they can take a lot from these kids who are, facing resilience, adversity every single day. So that's probably one of my big advice. And the bottom one is probably a really important one. Young children love athletes because they chase their dreams. All right, they chase their dreams. All right, and whenever I can, I always try and put young children in front of athletes. All right, no matter what, gender equality, race, background, or anything. If they have an athlete, I know there's a 95% chance that kid is going to look up to that person. All right, so wherever you can, role models, role models, role models. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the power pathway that we have in England. The funny thing is, when I was coaching on the pitch, I didn't get a dry voice. So I don't know why I'm getting a dry voice in here. So the power pathway, as you saw in the video, I've actually not been part of the power pathway as a player. I've been part of it as a coach. We're going to explain a little bit about the things they do. I'm going to give you some suggestions of what you could do at your clubs and your individual things. But there's a video here that I will start off with, and then we'll just go through what they're doing at the moment. Big on videos.
The thing that stops us getting to the top isn't who we are.
For what we want.
To play, to win, to take on the bet.
To get the honour of the 3 lions on our chest.
For club, for country, for pride.
Whatever way you play, there's always a way to the top.
3 lines, glory. It's your skill, your will, that will write your story.
The fledgling talents.
The hidden gems.
The rough diamonds.
The team of pain for England that unites us.
We are the players that won't let our impairments define us.
Wherever there's desire,
Skill.
Spirit.
well, there's a way.
Find your way.
The England power pathway. Complex.
So every person in that video has an impairment. So again, it goes back to what I said, role models. That video is played at Wembley. That video is played on TV. That video is played at clubs. It's on big revenues. All right, and that was pushed by EE, who are our main sponsors. Sponsors of the England team and the Power Pathway. And it's a very powerful video because number 1 is the role models. Number 2, you can see the impairments. All right, so you've got CP in there, you've got partially sighted. The deaf one is known as an invisible impairment because you can't actually see it till you actually interact with it. All right, so if I'm standing here right now, I look like I don't have an impairment, but as soon as I turn and face that door there, you guys can see my hearing aid and you go, yep, there's his impairment. All right, so we're known as an invisible impairment. With the Power Pathway, the objectives are to provide a pathway with the opportunity of representing your country in a category one day. That's the elite status, that's the top end of what they want to achieve. All right, but then it breaks down, with the bottom end approach. These are just some of the things they want to do. World-class coaching, world-class facilities. I mean, when I was 10, I never thought that I would be getting coached by ex-professionals. Professionals that have played at the highest level, professionals who have played in the Premier League. My head coach has got 245 appearances in the Premier League. All right, that as a 10-year-old who didn't have a role model, just to even think that is a massive achievement, all right? And that's the growth of our power sport. It's still work in progress. There's a lot on, the 10-year long-term thing. An interesting fact about this, when I was 18, I'm 28 now, so 10 years. For the first 5 years of my international playing career, we had to pay for everything. It was player-led, player-funded. We had to raise the money ourselves. There would be a tournament posted. So say, for example, there was the European Championships in Turkey in 2004. A volunteer coach would get up and they'll go, right, I want to get a squad together. We would host trials. We'd organise everything ourselves. And then they would put a team together. We'd raise £1,500. So that's about 3,000 Canadian dollars. And we would go to the tournament, participate in it, etc., etc. The FA slowly has started to raise teams and started our teams under their banner. You'd be very surprised. There's loads of impairments. They've only got a selective few. And it comes down, unfortunately, to results. It's going to come down to which teams are going to get us the best results, which teams are going to hit our target markets, which teams have got the most potential. All right, so at the end of the day, it is a business model. At the end of the day, it's about how many people can we reach, but where can we get success. So as you can see from there, that's what the pathway is like in England at the moment. And we will give you some figures. As you can see on the right-hand side, there are only 5 registered national teams. All right, so we've got the blind, CP, deaf, partially sighted, and power chair. All right, those are the only 5 teams. And the reason why they've only selected those 5 teams is because number one, a population density. They can select, those ones have a huge population pool that they can pick from. It's the ones where they have the best talent, the most exciting potential. And number 2, those ones represent a large percentage of the disabilities in our country. Therefore, they go by, how can we provide more accessibility? How can we reach more children? And that's what defines those. And then at the end of the day, results. All right. Just to break this model down a little bit for you, and it's hard for me because obviously Canada, England, 2 different countries in terms of size metric. Right? England is still known as an island, and then you compare it to Canada. When I first lived here, I made an absolute muppet of myself because I said to someone, I went, do you know what? I fancy driving from Toronto to Vancouver. That sounds like a really good road trip. And they went, oh, do you realise how long it takes? And I went, no, why? And when they told me, I went, oh, screw that. So I'm still learning. So the way this works is in their grassroots clubs, in their house league clubs, they either put on sessions for the kids, all together. Put them all together, and I'll explain that a little bit more. And then they might do, and then one is the England Talent Days. So you would do maybe like an Ontario or like a Toronto or whatever. You would do these days every 6 weeks, every 8 weeks, where they received a higher level of coaching. The next stage, the next level of coaching, and then that's where you start to recognise the talent and the potential that you have, and then it breaks it up. All right. Development squads is the reserves, and then you have the elite squads at the top of that. But as you can see, it starts from the bottom. It starts from you guys that are at the clubs. It starts from you guys, and it's about creating a pathway. What's really good about this, though, is I could be a 14-year-old, and I go, you know what? I want to break from football. I want to focus on my academics. I'm mentally strained, I'm struggling, I'm having to handle a lot of stuff with school environment, I want to take a break, no problem. Come back at 18 when you're ready. Come and do our National Emerging Talent Programme. Come and get your coaching. Are you good enough? Right, yeah, let's put you in the development squad. So there's no cut-off point. So for you guys, if you were looking at something, I would think it's most important that you have no cut-off point. All right? For these guys, just playing soccer is their life. It's what gives them, it gets them through from Monday to Friday. It's what gives them that purpose, all right? Because these are people who struggle a lot, social comparisons, friends and all that kind of stuff. So this is just a little video on what the bottom one is, the England Talent Days.
An England Talent Day is para players' first engagement with our programme, so it's very much open access across the impairments of deaf, cerebral palsy, and visual impairments, both male and female players. We've got around about 11 of them going on around the country over the next few months. It's just purely come along, have a go.
It's an opportunity for us as coaches and as a staff team to have a look at people and see where they might contribute to the pathway and hopefully find some future England players.
It also says that football is for all, and it just gives experiences and inspirational opportunities for these young people.
I have CP and it was hard to find a place, so it's just good to be here and have this opportunity to be with people with CP, without CP.
I never really usually see people with CP. It just feels like I'm home and like I'm in my own world.
A lot of times players in mainstream or even disability and disability environments play football in spite of their impairment. We want them to have these opportunities almost because of the impairment that they've got.
So for some of the players today, for the first time they've played with players who've got the same impairments.
I used to play mainstream football, but it just got too much for me. I went into blind football about a year ago, and ever since then I've been able to develop.
Today, deaf players have their own language to be used.
and communication styles that they use. So it means that they can play together well. It's part of deaf culture.
I've always played in a Haven football team, but I'm glad I'm here, and I feel like I'm not alone. And yeah, I'm struggling. There's people around me who are like me.
My daughter has cerebral palsy. Days like today have been an absolute godsend in terms of her confidence building. She's had a smile on her face all day. The coach has been immense from what I've seen from the sidelines.
Full of smiles, full of fun, full of enjoyment, and they take some joy from it. It's really is remarkable.
So obviously, like they said at the start, they do 11 days throughout the year. When they started, they only used to do 2. So they used to do 1 at the start of the year and then 1 6 months. All right. There's a study being proven. Us humans, we often focus on goals that are within 30 to 60 days. If it's more than 60 days, we don't really think about it because we think it's, well, yeah, there. If it's shorter than that, we're focusing on it already. So a goal that is within 30 to 60 days, you can put your mind to it and you will achieve it. So when you know all these like diet plans and stuff like that and transformation stuff, they always say between 30 and 60 days, because if we can sustain a behavior or a thinking or a memory, it's normally within that time period. So what I'm saying to you guys, if you're thinking about putting on days like this, you don't need to put one on every week. You don't need to put one on every day. Put one on between 30 and 60 days. That's enough to give that kid a reminder of why they're playing soccer. It gives them a purpose to carry on and going, you know what? Oh, mum and dad, we've got that event going on in 4 weeks, right? Brilliant, yeah. And it's enough for them. Right? It keeps them going from next stage to the next stage. And this is the building framework that you have to create. They've been doing this for 10 years and they're only at 11 days. All right, but it's 11 big, significant days for those kids. They all still play within their mainstream environments. All right? So, we're not asking you to take them out of their mainstream environments, and, we're going to go through it now a little bit. But what I want to talk about is the success of our program. All right, the success of the FA, and I'm really proud of it because, as you can probably tell by the way I talk about it, I'm proud to be deaf. All right? I always say that. Someone was asking me, like, do you think your life would be different? And I went, I don't think I would be as successful or as driven if I wasn't deaf. Deaf is the reason why I have this drive and this courage to try and make a difference. All right. From that pathway that you saw on the previous slide, this is the success that we've had across the teams. All right, so they've managed to identify 4, 3 there, 6 for the CP, 5 for B1, 6 for partially sighted. All right, and they've gone through that talent pathway and they've come through and they've represented the national teams. So it proves that the plan works. The players are there. You just have to determine what your success is as a coach, like I said earlier on the pitch. Now, enough about what we do. It's more about how we can help you guys and what I can give to you. So this is player learnings. This is my own experiences as a player, and these are my 5 top things that I would recommend you guys remembering to do that you want your players. All right, the number one is the top one, is probably the biggest one. Why should we be treated any differently? Why should you make us feel any different? We just want to be treated the same. All right, and by that we mean by the language you use, by the body language you use, by the sessions that you're putting on. We want it all to be the same. The reason why we fell in love with soccer is because we watched, a normal mainstream game. I didn't watch any deaf games when I was younger. That didn't make me fall in love with soccer. What made me fall in love with soccer was watching Arsenal beat Man United week in, week out. Sorry, Cam. All right? That's what made me fall in love with soccer. Okay? So you've got to relate it. You don't just want to be treated the same. All right? The support is massive. I would say probably one of the biggest reasons why I still play at this level. I've always had a balance. I was speaking to someone about this earlier. Coaching and playing. For the first time in probably my whole career, coaching has taken a priority. All right, so when I first started playing, playing was 100% commitment, dedication, and then coaching it year by year has obviously taken its grasp. But the reason why I'm still playing is because of the support that I get. All right, so within the England system, we get a mentor. Every week I have an hour meeting with our mentor, and he just goes, right, how's your life getting on? How's your training going? Brilliant. How are you doing? Fantastic. It can either be a phone call, it can be a Zoom call, it can be face-to-face. It's just something like that, all right? That's really important that you have that support in place, okay? And if you can provide that, you're going to get that consistency of that player staying in the program. And I think that's something that we all can do better, whether it's mainstream or para. Can we offer that off the pitch support? That's probably one thing that will keep players in the pathway longer. All right. Opportunity. So again, like I just said before, providing those days or providing sessions, like I know some of you guys already mentioned, they just want the opportunity. All right. And as you as coaches, I know sometimes we often think, oh God, only 3 kids have turned up today. All right. Change the mindset to, I've got 3 kids here that I could change their lives. All right, 3 kids who want to receive coaching of soccer from you, 3 kids who all have an impairment. They're probably looking at the other 2 kids and going, oh my God, they've got the same impairment as me. Oh, do you know what? I feel good today. I feel like I'm in the right place. All right. So never feel bad if you only have 1 kid turn up or 2 kids turn up or 3 kids. Just getting 1 kid to one of those sessions is a success. All right, and that's why you've got to stick with the opportunities that you create. The reason why programs fail, the reason why programs stop is because they think because the numbers have declined, they need to stop it. Numbers decline, that's natural. Right? It's part of a cycle. All right, so role models, like I said, established role models that players can look up to and go. I'm going to give you a good example of this. After Christmas, just before I came out here, the England team took the deaf team and the CP team for a winter training camp. So we had a week away in Tenerife for a week. The year before that, we did the same. Last year, very little social media, very little. I think all we got was like 1 post saying, oh, the England team had travelled out. This year, we accessed 18 million people on socials. Every day we were being posted on the England Instagram, on the TikToks, on the Twitter, everything like that. All right, that is the scale that we managed to achieve. And for us as players, we weren't bothered about being on it. For us players, it was thinking, there's going to be a 10-year-old at home now who's going to be going on Instagram and they're going to see someone with a disability that they may have and go, Mum, Dad, look, this is exactly who I've got. But it takes time to get there. All right? It takes time. You've got to be talking to organisations. You've got to be talking to the bigger federations. You need to be getting their backing. You need to be getting their support. All right, and I'll give you a couple of examples of how you can do that. And then the bottom one is accessibility. What I mean by this, you don't need a league. You don't need matches. You don't need to feel like you need to be entering tournaments. All right, you just need to make it accessible. You just need to make it, give them our purpose again. Everything's the same. All the answers that I'm giving you comes down to the same thing. It's about purpose, it's about giving them accessibility, it's about giving them support and things like that. Now, coaches, obviously, it's a difficult one. All right, you feel like you're in the unknown. You don't want to go over personal, boundaries. You don't want to step over the line. That's probably one of the biggest things. Is like, am I going to push the line a bit here? Too much? Is this going to be too much for this kid? Is this going to upset that kid? Comments, words that you're using. And the top one is understanding the impairment, all right, and how it affects their ability to play football. Okay, it's important to know that. But what's important is that when you're in the session, if you're coaching, so I'm going to give you an example. So say if I was coaching a CP player, all right, when I was CP, not most of the time, it's a half of a body that's paralysed, or they might have a limb that is not fully functioning with that. And what I would do, if I was in a session with them, is understanding that they can't play the game at the same speed as a mainstream player. They can't use they can't run the same fundamental pattern. They can't, take touches as the same of great quality. Most of the time, they're just one leg. Most of the time, they just use one leg. All right, but it's understanding that, and it's understanding, right? Yeah, okay, brilliant. They still put them in mainstream, but just having that understanding as a coach, he might be a little bit slow sometimes. He might have a bad touch a bit more often than a normal mainstream player. And it's having those understandings and not criticising those things that happen. All right, and it's understanding that. Adaptability. Changing your coaching styles and adapt. and methods to accommodate needs. So if anyone ever coaches deaf players, the worst thing that we hate is people mouthing. So when they go, "Can you hear me?" Right? No, we hate that. Right? We've been brought up all our lives for normal talking discussions, right? So why do you need to slow down? I've been taught how to have a normal conversation. I've grown up all my life reading lips of normal mainstream people. So why suddenly do you need to change and slow it all down? Just speak normally, make sure your lips are visual, you can see it, use a whiteboard, write things down. Demonstrations are powerful, all right? You already do demonstrations in your sessions. You don't need to change anything. You just need to do more demonstrations, and then you need to go, do you understand that? Yeah, thumbs up, happy with that. All right. I think in England they're doing a big thing. I know here is ALS. Is it ALS here? Is it ALS here? Yeah. So in England they do BSL, which is British Sign Language. We had a massive breakthrough with that last year, and that is that BSL is now on the curriculum of every secondary school in the country. It's a language that can be chosen. Yeah, it's a language that you can choose. So. And I think it's going to be very popular. I mean, if you were given the option, do you want to learn sign language or do you want to learn French, German, or English? You know, it's going to be a massive, massive thing. And, you know, that was a big push through for us. Opportunities of, be willing to provide players with impairments a chance to compete with the best they can. So what I mean by this is, don't just categorize them into their impairment. All right? Us deaf men's, we play against hearing teams all over the world because we need to play against the best that we possibly can be. All right? So CP can play against hearing teams. You know, they can play against mainstream teams. I know with B1 and B2 and partially sighted, it's harder. But the fun fact is they started integrating squads now. So partially sighted now play with women's deaf team. Because the women's team is a futsal team, because there's only 7 players who are good enough to meet the requirement. So partially sighted play with the women's team. And again, that's that opportunity of deaf players getting pushed by these incredibly talented technical players who are partially sighted. But then the partially sighted are probably getting, you know, demanded physically by the athletes who can, you know, see things and sharper movements and all that kind of stuff. So again, it's having that opportunity to, you know, play and train with the best. Honesty, just always be honest. All right? If you don't have an opportunity for them, just tell them. Just go, listen, you don't have it right now, but I can give you this chance, I can give you this connection, I can give you this network. Always be honest to parents as well. All right? Parents don't know everything. All right? My mum said that to me. She went, because I'm born to 2 hearing parents, so I'm known as CODA, which means that you know, you either have deaf parents and a hearing child, or you're a deaf child and you have hearing parents. So I was the first of the kind in the family, and they said the reason why they were able to give me all the support and everything that they asked is because they always asked for people to be honest. They always asked professionals to be honest. They always asked people to tell them their true feelings of what was best for me. Okay, so if parents is hard, you know, but always be honest with them. Go to them, listen, there's a better way that we can maybe help your daughter. Does your daughter like this or that? Oh yeah, how's your son get? Oh yeah, did your son have social issues? Just ask them. Right? They don't mind it. It's not going to upset them. They're just grateful and appreciative that you're willing to give their child an opportunity to be part of mainstream and a mainstream environment. All right? And then the bottom one again is just treat them like mainstream players. Push them to the best they can be. Don't change your language. Don't change your behaviours. Don't think, okay, I'm not going to push him as much. Right? I'm just going to stick and call this player's name out a bit more. Right? Call their names out. Make them feel like they're part of the session. All right? When I give these learnings, it's more about integrating them with mainstream world. All right? The fact is that, you know, you have to try and get them to integrate with mainstream. That's where the opportunities are. That's where employment is. That's where money is. You know, and the more we can do that to integrate them with the mainstream, the better, the more chances of success they have in their life. All right. So, I don't want that one to play, but hopefully, well, it's very quiet, this one. Can you hear that? It will come up in a minute.
For the England men's England's deaf team a landmark occasion. Germany at Telford, and for the first time paying fans.
It's amazing. That's because this is the first time that England deaf football has been a ticketed game, giving the fans the opportunity to come and watch us play for England. So yeah, it's an amazing opportunity for us.
For the national anthem, a British Sign Language interpreter. And for the crowd, signed team announcements, with many fans attending deaf football for the first time.
That's half the reason I come, just to see the adjustments that you made.
It's going to be different, but I think it's good for the community to get together and come and watch something like this. Better cheap than watching Telford anyway. With no hearing aids allowed, England's deaf footballers have to adapt.
On the pitch, obviously you can't have your hearing aids or your implants in. You've got your implants, you can't hear, so you rely heavily on communication by eye, visual, body language. And it's the same with the coaches on the sideline. You have to rely on the interpreters to relay those messages.
He's too far over, he needs to go over there. And it means coaches and referees adapting too. We've got 2, maybe 3 really senior players in really key areas of the pitch, and they've got to focus on me in the game as well, just to make sure that if I'm trying to get a message on through my signers especially, that they pick it up and pass it around the team.
Well, I know a little bit of sign language, which tends to help. As well as a whistle, I also have a flag, because when the players take their implants out, some are totally deaf and some can hear as slightest of tones. So that's why I have to have a flag as well, to make sure there's a stoppage in play or an injury or anything like that.
Not so much in deaf football, there isn't really an issue, because they're all going to communicate, they all know each other really well, they've got a really good bond. When they're playing against hearing teams, there can be difficulties in communication and things being misunderstood, or hearing players not understanding the deaf person's perspective on a pitch.
Or being abusive to deaf players in club games, something which really affected England's Will Palmer.
It's really, really sad. I mean, my son, who's in the squad tonight, probably had one of his most devastating moments in football when he was playing for Stamford against Lincoln United, and was abused by an opposition player, and that went to an FA panel and a 9-match ban and a fine. But it took months to get to the end of that, and I have to say, that night at the kitchen table when we were discussing that incident, it was probably one of the darkest evenings we've had related to football. And it's not the only one, it happens to a lot of players. But hopefully tonight, with a good crowd and good exposure, we can show the mainstream world that deaf football is something to be celebrated. All these players, and they need to be admired and respected for the barriers that they have to overcome to play top-level football.
They overcame Germany 3-0 despite a sending off, and a crowd of 892 was something to cheer as well.
892? Wow, that's amazing. To have so many people supporting us and giving us that extra confidence and knowing that they believe in us. And we'll be ready for the next games coming forward.
The World Cup is looming fast in Malaysia in September, with the captain insisting that England can be deaf football world champions. Jeremy Langdon, Sky Sports, Telford.
The reason why I wanted to show you that video, there's 3 concepts of that video. Number 1 is on the largest sports channel in the UK, Sky Sports, which is a massive thing for us. So that was a massive coverage, and this is after 10 years of hard work. That was number 1. So again, we're reaching the awareness, spreading the awareness of para football in the UK. The second concept of that video that's quite important to me is Will Palmer, who suffered the abuse in a game which led to the opponent getting a 9-match ban. He was called something along the lines of, you deaf C-U-N-T, something like that. All right? So that's the one thing you're always going to have to face. Mainstream are always going to have stigma, misconceptions about para athletes. All right? It's bullying. Bullying exists. We all know it. We've all experienced it. Kids will experience it. Your kids will probably be on the end of it. So that is one thing where it comes down to that support and that education that you're not just giving these coaches, but your players as well. It's educating those players that are going, listen, he's no different to the rest of us. He can still play soccer. He still has these abilities, but he just needs these adaptations to help him thrive within that environment. The last concept of it is that was our first ever ticketed event. Right, first ever game that was with a crowd of 900 people, and that took 10 years for us to get to that. Before then, we never used to have anyone come and watch us. We play on some of the worst pitches in the country, but it took 10 years for us to get there. And now for us, obviously, it's, we've got expectations. The contact time's increasing with the mentor. We meet up every 2 weeks. The first team meet up every 2 weeks. Every other Sunday, we train for 6 hours, and then we go back. And again, it's hard for me to compare this with Canadian soccer because obviously of the landscape that you guys are operating with. A good example I can give you for that is America, your lovely friends. They started really taking it seriously about 2 years ago, and they said the biggest thing, the most painful thing for them is the amount of money that they spend on flying people to camps. All right, so that's always going to be the biggest barrier for you, is that accessibility, and that's where I think in this organisation and this province is what you need to be working on, something called networking. All right, so a couple of things here is coach educational workshops is vitally important, and I know there are stuff going on. I know there's been a couple of leaflets. I've seen stuff, so there are things going on, so that's great. All right, starting off with recreational sessions, which is what you guys will play a big part in. Can you get these kids, number one, outside of their house? Can you get them to leave their environments? Number two, can you get them to do physical education? All right, can you get them to do a little bit of exercise? What's the positive impacts of exercise? Mental health, social skills. Can you then find them to get them to fall in love with football? There you go, soccer. And that falls down the line of where you identify talent and a clear structure. The women's team they're probably the most successful para team that we have. A funny story with them is they started 11-a-side format. The standard wasn't there. The players weren't committed. They were talking about the elite status, so therefore they changed to futsal. They got rid of the players that weren't committed to the program, the players who weren't doing the training, the players that weren't, within the values of what the FA wanted to. So they transferred it to futsal, and those players from the 11-a-side transitioned to futsal, and they won the European Championships, and then came third in the Olympics in Brazil. So hugely successful transition there. Now, this is me just giving you a bit of consultation, just some ideas on what you could do here as an organisation, or as to help power. So, recreational sessions led by local clubs, right? Fun, engaging. Have values set within your line of what you want to do. Don't make it about quantity. Make it about quality. How good is your coaching? How fun is it? Don't look at the numbers. Right? It's important that you speak to your directors at your club and make sure that they know it's not a numbers game. It's more of a quality game. All right, and I know that that's important, obviously, because you've got pitch space, you need the accessibility. So again, that's really important that you focus on the quality. The next two, where it says regional clubs and province training hubs, I think that's where you guys need to start networking together as clubs and start going, right, me and you, let's work together. We're going to host a talent day, elite day for this area of Ontario. We're going to do it, banging, brilliant, 20, 30 players coming in, and then hopefully, with Ontario, the Canadian, have the para teams eventually, they can bring some scouts in and bring some coaches in, and they can pick some of those ones for the higher levels. All right. The biggest thing for me that you guys need to be doing is networking. Be willing to change. Be willing to put opportunities on that may not work to start with. All right. But after time and time again, they will eventually pay off, and eventually you will see this pathway develop. So lay your foundations. Create opportunities. Relatedness. Jack Rutter is a good friend of mine. Jack Rutter was a CP player, one of the best players in the world. Won everything. Captain, leader. How did he get CP? He got knocked out. So he got punched. Hit a pavement, damaged the side of his brain, and then he got CP. Before then, he was a professional footballer at Birmingham. All right. So he's someone that the FA and that I relate to a lot. And he's had that massive change and that massive cultural change in his life, from being a professional footballer to then suddenly being a para athlete. He's proud of it. He's now the coach for the development team. So again, it's that relatedness. He's the poster boy. So everyone with CP in England knows Jack Rutter. All right? And then the other one is patience. It's going to take time. It's going to take longer than you think. All right? But it's about sticking to it, committing to it, and understanding that these individuals, it might just take a little bit longer to get what you want them to achieve. All right, so that's the, let me just check there's another PowerPoint. Yep, that's it for me. All right, happy with that? There you go. And I know...
We just arrived.
He just arrived. It's on record. You can get it a copy. Guys, really, I know. I've been in a few talks over the weekend, and I know, obviously we want to speak about the end result and the end product of where we want players to end up. And I know for some of you, you might be going, "Oh God, there's so much to do." There isn't. All I would advise you to do is just focus on creating that recreational session that you can do at your club. The rest will build naturally. Because eventually you might get a player, I don't know, for example, you might get one player who goes, oh yeah, he's really good. What you're naturally going to do, you're going to find out what opportunities there are, you're going to try and find something, bang, an opportunity's there, and then you go and speak to them, you get that connection built, and then something will come from that connection. So don't worry about the big opportunities. The opportunities will be made for themselves. Just focus on getting that first recreational session. All right. A couple of little tips off the book. Right, so I've not put them on there, they're off the book. Sponsorships, getting money, guilt trap people. All right, make them feel bad. All right, it works. Okay, it works. There's the Disability Act in the UK that plays a massive part behind why we're able to get a lot of sponsorships in the UK. But sponsorships, to help run these sessions, these kids should not have to pay. They should not have to pay to have a session that has been adapted for their needs. All right, so you must do whatever you can in your power to make these sessions free of charge for those kids. All right, and that means speaking to local businesses, that means speaking to Ontario. I'm sure there will be some funding in the pipelines eventually, because I know in the UK what they do is they have a grassroots disability funding, which means that if you're a grassroots club and you put on a session for a period of time, you get a grant. That grant basically pays for the session week in and week out, and it also pays for the coach. All right. So again, that's something that's been there for 10 years, and the success of that has allowed the pathway to form. And what was the other thing I was going to say? The other thing I was going to mention is about the disabilities. Is put them together, let them play together. All right, don't worry about, oh God, he's got CP, she's partially sighted, he's deaf. Oh God, I can't coach them all together. Yes, you can. It's one sport. It's the same sport. Merge them together. Let them learn skills off one another. When I think it was just before Christmas, we were not when we went to Tenerife, we were at a camp in England, and we were meant to play a team from outside. They were meant to bring a team in for the deaf team to play against, and what they did, and that team cancelled. They made us play against CP. CP's format. So obviously we play 11, they play 7. No offsides. All right, so it's CP who are basically, we played at their game. Obviously the physical demands put us at an advantage, but we were at a disadvantage because we were playing their game. It was probably one of the best games I've probably ever played. I learned so much about movement, about communication, about how they use their technical abilities to their strengths, and how they make it's almost like you look at them and you go, have you got any weak area? It's because they don't use their weak area, they maximize their strengths of their disability. All right, so don't be afraid, put them together, just put those individual coaching that you need to do throughout the session. All right, that's probably my 2 off the book points of reference I'll give, but that's pretty much it from me. Any questions, guys?
Yeah, the word para is obviously all-encompassing. Where does the word para come from? The word para, where does that come from?
Good question. I can't remember now, actually. Paralympics. So, you know, the Paralympics, yeah, I think it's come from that. So I can't remember what the Paralympics stands for, but it came from that, and it came from the fact that we didn't really like being called, you know, disabled, and we didn't like the word handicapped, because I think it just downright discriminates, but because it links to the Paralympics, and again, that's the ultimate goal. You know, these kids want to be playing in the Olympics, so that's why they changed it and linked it to the Paralympics. Yeah. Any other questions? No? Happy with that? Yeah?
You spoke earlier on about role models. Did you find your role model as a para-athlete?
I don't think I've ever had a role model. I think I just had people, I just had goals and dreams I wanted to do. But I think now, it's interesting that I don't really think, obviously I wanted to be David Beckham. I mean, who doesn't want to be David Beckham, you know? But, you know, Victoria Beckham, well. But I think I never as a kid went, I want to be like them. I never went, as a kid, I was never like, oh, yeah, where's that? But I remember as a kid always being like, asking my mum and dad going, where's that, mum, dad, why do I never see anyone with a hearing aid? Why do I never see anyone with a cochlear implant, which is what I have? You know, that was what I always said. And I think because of that, I don't think I had role models. And I think these kids do, especially with the social media. You know what it's like, you know, with all that TikTok and stuff like that. And I think what England are doing and the FA are doing is going to see a massive range of, you know, kids actually looking up. I mean, you know, if I just go back to this thing here, so the England Talent Day. So what they do is that's basically like the grassroots clubs referring them to go to that. They had, I think when they started, they only had about 50 kids going. All right, now they have 350 kids going across the country. So, you know, again, I think the reason why more and more kids know about that now is because, number one, clubs are getting that access to the education that they need. The FA are putting it out there. Number two, us role models, so people like me, we're sharing it out. Whenever I see a deaf kid or whenever I see a CP kid, I'm like, hey, do you like football? Do you like soccer? Like, yeah. And I speak to their mum and dad, go, right, yeah, look at this, bang, sorted. You know, so again, it goes back to what this weekend's been about. Like you said, it's role models. Right, role models. It's crucial. Yes.
How was your progression with coaching? How did they just let you go with coaching, or did you have a glass ceiling where they stopped you? And can you actually coach?
So they have a player to coach transition program as well in England. So that's a big thing that they do. But I think. You know, I was speaking to someone. I just prefer coaching now because of the opportunities. But when I was playing, people don't understand how to coach people with impairments, and that was the biggest problem for me. And I think that's why I'm a coach. But I don't coach kids with impairments much. I only do the which one is it? I do the National Emerging Talent Program, and the response I get is just kids are just like, they're like this. He's deaf. He's like me. But I think again it comes down, you know, was anyone in the business talk earlier? Was anyone in the business there? Yeah, they were talking about the women's transition, stuff like that. It's the same here. If you've got someone who's got a disability within your organisation who can't play soccer because they're too old or they're not interested, get them into coaching. Get them into coaching. All right, it's out there, so use that. Even if it's just being a helper, even if it's just been doing the admin side of it, even if it's being a minibus driver, get them in your organisation, give them a purpose. All right, they're not expecting to be paid. They're doing it because they love it. They're doing it as a voluntary. And I think sometimes we get that misconception that we're going, oh God, if I want to make my club better, I need to start putting money into it. No, you don't. You can make something good by having the right values and getting the right people. All right. Anything else? Are we done? Yeah, happy with that. Thank you very much, guys. I'll have you. I want to just do a little video, okay? So I'd like to do a little video. So what's going to happen is I'm just going to record myself saying, oh, I'm Ontario Summit. And then these guys, and then I'll say, these guys just want to say something. And I believe it's very important. I want you guys to shout out, if you don't mind. Dream big. Okay, and then I share it on my Instagram, and I send it out to all the schools that we work with the academy, because they're obsessed with what I'm doing and the people that we reach. Is that okay? Yeah. Yeah. All right. So just ignore me for 30 seconds while I talk into the camera. Okay. No funny faces or any funny noises. All right. Hey guys, so I'm currently in Canada at the moment, giving a couple of speaks at the Ontario Summit. And we just summited very interesting people who are very passionate about accessibility soccer here. They just would like to say something. Dream big! There we go. Thank you very much, guys.
So just on behalf of Ontario Soccer, I'd like to thank Joe again for coming out and doing this session today, and I hope you all took something of value for it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have you got my hoodie in it? Yeah. No worries. Cheers, guys. No worries. Don't worry about it. 20 Canadian dollar fine.